It was a dream vacation for honors student Natalee Holloway and her high school classmates from Mountain Brook High School in Alabama, who flew to Aruba in late May 2005 to celebrate their graduation on sun-drenched beaches and in raucous nightclubs. But that dream soon became a nightmare for the Holloway family, who learned the morning she was supposed to return home that Natalee had disappeared finally. The Holloway family has answers about Natalee's last days in Aruba. Natalee Holloway was born on October 21st, 1986 to Dave and Beth Holloway, an insurance salesman and speech therapist respectively, and grew up in Clinton, Mississippi. The couple separated when Natalee was 7 years old, and she and her brother Matthew subsequently lived with their mother and her new husband George Twitty in Mountain Brook, Alabama, an affluent suburb of Birmingham. Holloway was a member of the National Honor Society while at Mountain Brook High School and was a member of the school's dance team, graduating on May 24, 2005, after which she, according to her mother, Natalee was a typical American teenager, more driven than most, perhaps a member of the Mountain Brook High School dance team, who, Beth insists, never drank, never had a boyfriend, and never had sex. She emphasizes this, and spoken is the suggestion that this gave Natalee little experience in the kind of tequila-fueled binge that Aruba is famous for. Natalee was very smart, but Beth admits very naive. Still, Beth had no qualms about letting her daughter go on a trip to Aruba. It had been something of a tradition at Mountain Brook High School, and Jag's son, George, had done the same a few years earlier. On Thursday, May 26th, Beth dropped Natalee off at a friend's house at 4 in the morning to fly her to Aruba. She emphasizes this, and spoken is the suggestion that this gave Natalee little experience in the kind of tequila-fueled binge that Aruba is famous for. Natalee was very smart, but Beth admits very naive. Still, Beth had no qualms about letting her daughter go on a trip to Aruba. It had been something of a tradition at Mountain Brook High School, and Jag's son, George, had done the same a few years earlier. On Thursday, May 26th, Beth dropped Natalee off at a friend's house at 4 in the morning to fly her to Aruba. She promised to pick her up at the airport the following Monday night. That was the last time she would see her daughter. She was to attend the University of Alabama at Tuscaloosa on a full scholarship in the fall, and planned to become a doctor. Holloway and her classmates, and with her 3 best friends, Liz Kane, Molly Tucker, and Claire Furman, spent the next week partying at the Holiday Inn on the north end of the island, basking in the sun during the day and drinking and clubbing at night. It was so much fun. We would wake up, walk in, brush our teeth, and go straight to the beach. We literally stayed in the water all day because it was so beautiful. Furman told 48 Hours, "We just hung out with friends on this beautiful island. It was a really fun trip." May 29th, 2005. Holloway meets Van der Sloot at the hotel. The 17-year-old Dutch national, who lives nearby in Noord, chats with Holloway and her friends as they enjoy their last night of vacation. Later, Van der Sloot joins the company at Carlos and Charlie's, a popular bar in downtown Orangested, where he drinks and dances with Holloway. She was last seen outside Carlos and Charlie's nightclub in Orange Estate at 1:30 a.m. that morning when she left the place in a silver Honda, along with Dutchman Joran van der Sloot and to Surinamese brothers Deepak and Satish Kaupo. May 30th, 2005, Holloway was a no-show at the class retreat after friends cannot find Holloway at her hotel. Her passport and bags are untouched in her room. The chaperone breaks the news to Holloway's mother, Beth Holloway Twitty. That night, Twitty, along with her husband Jag Holloway's stepfather and family friends, fly to Aruba on a rented plane. The interrogation takes them from the Holiday Inn to Carlos and Charlie's, and then to van der Sloot's house in Noord. Van der Sloot admits that he left the bar with Holloway and the Kaupo brothers and drove to the lighthouse before dropping her off at the Holiday Inn. He leads the group into the hotel, promising to point out the security guard who supposedly helped her get in, but can't find him. June 1st, 2005. The first local search party is formed. Because Holloway has not yet been officially declared missing, a group of about 100 tourists and locals begin combing the area. In the coming weeks, the search expands to include a group of volunteers from Texas, Aruba Police, Dutch Marines, and 3 F-16 fighter jets from the Netherlands, although none of them have been able to find any sign of Holloway. June 5th, 2005. The first suspects arrested in the case were former security guards at a hotel closed for renovation, but they were released 8 days later. Authorities also soon arrested and released van der Sloot's father, Paulus, and a party DJ. June 9, 2005, under pressure from Twitty and government officials, Deputy Police Chief Harold Tompig arrests 3 young men last seen with Holloway. Now the suspects change their story. The Kaupo brothers claim they dropped their friend and Holloway off at the beach near the Holiday Inn, while van der Sloot insists he left her there to go home. July 4th, 2005. It is also announced that van der Sloot will be detained for another 60 days. No reason is given for this decision by the judge. July 17th. 2005, the strands are found stuck to a piece of duct tape on the northeast coast of Aruba and sent to the FBI crime lab in Quantico, Virginia, which reports a negative match to Holloway on July 28. July 26, 2005, the investigators began draining the pond, following a tip from a gardener who claimed to have seen van der Sloot and Kaupo digging near the nearby Marriott Hotel. Authorities have begun draining a pond across from the Marriott Hotel they stopped the effort on July 30th. September 3rd, 2005, a week after Kaupo's rearrest, the brothers and van der Sloot are released from jail on the condition that they remain available to police. The investigation is ongoing. The lead officer told the Associated Press the Natalee Holloway case did not end with these releases. In 2006, van der Sloot is served with a civil lawsuit in New York. The suit, filed in New York State Supreme Court, accuses Joran of malicious, wanton, and willful disregard for the rights, safety, and welfare of Holloway and alleges that Paulus contributed to his son's predatory behavior. The suit was later dismissed on August 3, with a judge ruling that local taxpayers would have only an ephemeral interest in seeing the case through. In the spring of 2006, Van der Sloot talks to Fox News in a lengthy interview with Greta Van Susteren, broadcast over 3 nights. Van der Sloot recounts details of his time with Holloway, from drinking with her at a bar to leaving her on the beach, addressing some unusual elements of his story, such as why his shoes went missing that night. November 21st, 2007, Van der Sloot is detained in the Netherlands, where he is in school, and Kaupo is held in Aruba after what is described as new compromising evidence emerges. The evidence fails to move the case forward, however, and all 3 suspects are released by December 7th. Efforts by a U.S. search vessel and a remotely operated vehicle produce images of what appears to be a human skull, but this development becomes the latest stalemate when divers find nothing of significance in the trap. In a 2008 hidden camera broadcast by Dutch reporter Peter R. T. Fries, Van der Sloot tells his colleague that Holloway passed out while they were on the beach together, and, unable to bring her to consciousness, asked a friend to help dispose of her body from the boat. After learning that his alleged confession was recorded, Van der Sloot insists that he was lying at the time. In 2010, in an email to Twitty's attorney John C. Kelly, Van der Sloot offers to reveal the location of Holloway's body in exchange for a $25,000 advance and another $225,000 in the future. Kelly agrees and gives the information to the FBI after Kelly takes $10,000 to meet Van der Sloot in Aruba. The latter goes to the house and tells him that his father buried Holloway in its foundation. That same day, another $15,000 is transferred to his bank account in the Netherlands. Van der Sloot later admits to Kelly that he lied again and secretly travels to Peru to compete in a poker tournament. American television stations devoted so much of their airtime to covering the search for Holloway that some critics criticized this saturation, calling it missing white woman syndrome. When a missing white person receives significantly more media attention than they would if that person were Asian or Black, Aruban newspaper El Diario also drew attention to this fact, pointing out that if Holloway had been Latina, the media frenzy over her disappearance would have been much lower. The most prominent anchors who frequently alerted viewers to the Holloway case were Fox News channels on the Record W. Greta Van Susteren host Greta Van Susteren, which gave the show its best ratings ever, and CNN's headline news host Nancy Grace the Show went on to create its own sub-news show, Headline Prime, which aired at night during rush hour while the investigation was going on. A lot of attention was paid to Elizabeth Twitty and her statements. Behind all of this, Reuben spokesman Reuben Turpanbear stated that the Natalee Holloway case was under the microscope. However, Natalee's parents always felt that their daughter's disappearance was not getting enough media attention. Media interest in the case waned slightly in August 2005 due to Hurricane Katrina. Elizabeth Twitty and Dave Holloway claim that Aruba took advantage of the extensive media coverage of the hurricane to release the suspects, but their release date of September 3rd, 2005 was set before the hurricane, 5 years after Holloway's disappearance. Van der Sloot murders 21-year-old Stephany Flores Ramirez in her hotel room in Lima, Peru. Her body was not immediately discovered, however, because her killer left instructions forbidding hotel staff from entering his room. Van der Sloot, with his hair dyed short and red, is found in a cab near the coastal town of Villa del Mar in Chile. He is taken back to Lima and held at the high-security Castro prison June 27, 2010. Van der Sloot is indicted in the U.S. on fraud and extortion charges. The charge stems from a federal investigation that followed Van der Sloot's attempt to obtain $250,000 from Holloway's mother, asked why the suspect wasn't arrested after the bank payment and before he had a chance to kill Flores. Authorities said there wasn't sufficient evidence to do so. January 11, 2012, Van der Sloot pleads guilty to the murder of Flores. I wanted from the first moment to confess sincerely. Van der Sloot says in court, I sincerely regret the act. I feel very bad. The defense blames his actions on extreme psychological trauma from the long-running Holloway saga, though prosecutors say he killed Flores to steal her casino winnings. January 12, 2012, Holloway is officially pronounced dead at the behest of Holloway's father and against her mother's wishes. An Alabama judge officially declares Holloway dead. Beth's position is that she has no evidence or indication that Holloway is still alive, but in the absence of any evidence or indication that she is dead, she always wants to keep that faint glimmer of hope alive, says her attorney. The unsolved disappearance of a missing girl remained the subject of enormous interest for the next decade, thanks in no small part to a boom in true crime podcasts and streaming series. After spending nearly 11 years behind bars in Peru, Van der Sloot was unexpectedly temporarily extradited to the United States on May 10, 2023, to answer charges of extortion and wire fraud filed in 2010 after pleading not guilty in U.S. District Court in Birmingham, Alabama. Van der Sloot was remanded to a local jail for arraignment on June 9th. He then returned to court on October 18th to enter a plea bargain, in which he rescinded his original plea and finally confessed to the murder of Natalee Holloway, explaining that he beat her to death with a cinder block after she rejected his sexual advances, attempted and dumped her body in the ocean. Judge Ana Manasco sentenced him to another 20 years in prison on fraud charges to be served concurrently with his Peruvian sentence, and told him, "You brutally murdered, on separate occasions several years apart, to beautiful women who refused your sexual advances." In the court, Beth Holloway simply said, "It's over. Joran Van der Sloot is no longer a suspect in the murder of my daughter. He is a murderer." After 18 years, Natalee's case is solved. He made a proposal in which he finally confessed to Natalee's murder, although the 12-year statute of limitations in the Aruba murder case has passed. The island's prosecutor's office has not ruled out taking further legal action against Joran Van der Sloot in light of the belated confession 2 days after pleading guilty. Van der Sloot is sentenced to 28 years imprisoned and $75,000 in restitution to the Flores family, while Holloway's family remains hopeful that Van der Sloot will face additional punishment in the United States on the extortion charge. They later learned that the convicted murderer will not be extradited for another quarter century once his murder conviction is over. On July 4, 2014, Sloot, 26, marries his Peruvian girlfriend, 24-year-old Lady Figueroa, in a ceremony at the maximum security prison where he is serving a sentence for murder. According to the Associated Press, after his release, Sloot tells Figueroa, who's 7 months pregnant, "I want to marry you again." Peruvian officials change course and announce that they have agreed to a request for provisional extradition of Sloot to the United States to face extortion and wire fraud charges related to the 2010 indictment against him. In a statement, Holloway's mother says, "It has been a very long and painful journey, but the perseverance of many will pay off. Together we will finally get justice for Natalee." Sloot plans to return to Peru once his trial in America is over. June 9, 2023. Sloot pleads not guilty in U.S. federal court. Joran Sloot leaves a Peruvian prison on June 8, 2023, and is transferred to U.S. custody. The next day he flies to Alabama. One day after arriving in Birmingham, Alabama, Sloot pleads not guilty to extortion and wire fraud. After his arraignment, he is transferred to the Shelby County Jail. October 18, 2023. Sloot pleads guilty in court to the murder of Holloway. Sloot returns to U.S. District Court to take a plea bargain. He will plead guilty to extortion and wire fraud in exchange for sharing information he had long promised her family. What happened to Holloway? According to Judge Anna Manasco, Sloot admitted to killing her and disposing of her remains. "I have considered your confession to the brutal murder of Natalee Holloway," Judge Anna Manasco said in court. "You brutally murdered, on separate occasions several years apart, two beautiful women who refused your sexual advances." Manasco sentenced Sloot to 20 years in prison on charges of extortion and electronic communications fraud, which will run concurrently with his sentence in Peru. "I would like to take this opportunity to apologize to the Holloway family, to apologize to my family, and to say that I hope that the statement I made will bring some closure to everyone involved." Sloot said, "I am no longer the same person I was then.